the Marvels is rumored to have one of these big post-credit scenes. They said that it's going to have a cameo, and the direct quote was, someone who was perfect casting for a certain role and never got his chance to do justice with it because they wasted him on a shitty movie, and that individual's coming back. That could be plenty of people.
Right. Well, it's Marvel and not DC, so it's not Nicolas Cage.
Right.
And as long as it's not him or anybody that played anything in Eternals, I think I'm good.
It's not George Clooney. We know that.
Right.
And it's definitely not Ezra Miller. So we're good about that. All right. Welcome to another episode of Only Comics. I'm Mike. This is Adrian.
Good morning.
How we doing today, bro?
Doing good. A beautiful day yesterday, and it was shit up on today.
Yeah, it was, dude.
But outside of that, it's still fall. I'm still loving it.
Dude, I actually was confused when I walked outside yesterday.
Right.
Because, you look outside, there's leaves falling everywhere. Everything's orange and green. As you can see, I mean, it's spooky season, Adrian, okay?
Right.
That's what I think that's what the kids are calling it nowadays.
Spooky season.
Spooky season up in here. But it's fall, man. I think my favorite time of the year. I love it. Leaves falling.
Absolutely.
But, dude, I walked outside yesterday, and it's like I walked into a fucking oven.
Right. I'm thinking it's what, 80 degrees? It felt like it anyway.
At least 80 degrees, dude. It was insane. And then today it's nice. So I'm enjoying the rainy day, bro.
Right. Listen, if it's fall, I'll take it either way.
Yeah.
Nice sunny day, a little hot. Rainy day like it was this morning. You know what? I just switch it up. Cup of soup or some coffee or some cocoa, or go out. Have a nice refreshing drink.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Absolutely. Well, we're gonna have a nice refreshing drink today with this episode. Okay. We got a fun day. We got Chris joining us later. We're gonna do a deep dive into the Long Halloween since it's our spooky episode. It's Halloween's a couple days here. But before we get into that, as always, we're gonna kick off the show with our Newsflash Buddy segment. So, Adrian, we got some stuff happening this week. There's a rumor. We talk about Batman a lot here, right? He's my favorite. What was he, your number 3 or number 2 favorite, I think, when we went?
Number 2.
Number 2. So, and if you've not seen that podcast, there's a great show. And I say great show, a little biased because it's our show.
Right.
But there's a great episode where we break down, I think we did our top 5 characters of all time. So Batman's a big favorite here on Only Comics. So, yeah, sometimes we were a little Batman heavy last month.
Right,
we were.
Right.
You know what we did though is it was Batman Day, so we said screw it, we'll make it Batman month.
Hey, there you go.
So we're wrapping up Batman month. Still in October here with this episode, but there's some Batman news. So there's a rumored Scarecrow movie to be in the works that takes place in the Batman universe, and that is the Matt Reeves The Batman. We've seen Scarecrow on screen in Batman Begins and actually in the Dark Knight trilogy, right? Scarecrow. Now, first of all, as a character, do you like Scarecrow as a villain?
I do.
Yeah.
He's on the edge, psychotic. Not quite as bad as Joker, but he's entertaining. And he just seems to he does a lot of deep diving, man. I mean, when he goes in, he goes in.
Yeah, and I love, in some Batman comics or even in the movies, I love some of the scenes where Batman's under Scarecrow's fear toxin or whatnot,
right.
And the visuals that you get and the things that he experiences. I mean, there's times where it brings him back to his parents' death, even though then we got to see that panel again, but whatever. And even I know your expertise in games is only Ratchet and Clank.
That's
but
right.
I've played the whole Arkham series, and Scarecrow's a big component of those games, and you get to play through some of these nightmare scenes. So I've loved Scarecrow as a villain. So if this rumor's true, I'm all for it.
Right.
I think the Scarecrow would really fit that Batman universe because, yes, he's a little out there, but he can still be grounded in a way. So I think this is I'm all for this. I'd be up for seeing this movie. What about you?
I'm good for it. I just let's not make it like a Scarecrow movie.
Yeah.
Let's not make it like the Joker.
Right.
You know, one of his own things, and now they're coming out with another Joker.
Yep.
Or something like that.
Yeah, Joker.
Yeah, let's not do that. So.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about the Joker too. We'll talk about that later. Anyway, and then also I guess Mike Flanagan, who I guess is some director, and again, we're not experts here. He may be well known. Everybody loves him. I don't know who he is. But he also pitched a Clayface solo movie, which is interesting. We've never seen Clayface in live action. Do you like Clayface as a Batman villain?
I do, but not that much.
Yeah.
Not enough to have him as his own thing. I think that'd be stretching it.
Yeah.
I'd like to see some more dynamic with the Batman storylines. Do more, by himself, things like that.
Yeah.
But definitely not a Clayface. He's a good support character.
Right.
Outside of that, I'm good.
Like there was rumors that he's going to be in the Batman 2 as a villain, which I like that.
Sure.
Like one of the things I liked about the Batman movie, I love the movie, but one of the big pieces for me was how they managed multiple villains.
Right.
Like the Penguin was like a sideline character, right? Falcone was kind of a sideline character. Yep. Riddler was the main villain. Catwoman's kind of, is she good? Is she not? I like that about the Batman, which reminds me what we'll talk about later with the Long Halloween. So I'm okay if, the Penguin's in this one, if Scarecrow's in it, if Clayface, as long as they're managed properly. Right. I'm with you. I don't need to see a solo movie for every damn Batman villain. Scarecrow one, I'd watch it. I'd be cool. Clayface, I'm with you. I like how you said it. I like him, but not that much.
Right.
So yeah, I'm saying no on that one. But Scarecrow, all for it. All right, next up, Adrian. Marvel officially confirms Scarlet Witch in the MCU is dead. Now, we've talked about this here before, right? In the Doctor Strange movie, they fight at the end, and then everything kind of, blows up, that temple or whatnot, Darkhold, all this stuff. And then we see this kind of red flash of light, which I always said that, to me, that means that Scarlet Witch is still alive somewhere. Like, that's her energy, something going elsewhere. But in a new book, Adrian, which you actually ordered one of these. I came home the other day, bro, and when you walk home and there's Amazon boxes on your step?
Yep.
Now, you and I, we're married, kids, grown, right?
Yep.
What do you normally think when you see an Amazon box?
I think it's one of the kids.
Okay.
So but I mean, I do order quite a bit of stuff, but still, my first thought is, it belongs to somebody else.
Yeah. So now my kids don't order. They're not old enough to order their own shit yet. But I usually just think my wife orders something, right? So I just bring it in the home and like go give it to my wife. So there's this big ass box right in front of my steps. I walk up, grab it. It's got my name on it. I'm like, dude, I haven't ordered anything in months, right? So I pre-ordered this Marvel Cinematic Universe
Nice.
An official, yeah, I opened it up and I was like, damn, if we weren't doing the Long Halloween deep dive, I'd start reading it because I got it in last week. But so reason I show you this now is this this is a timeline to everything in the MCU, every movie, every show. I don't know where the cutoff is. It's probably right before the multiverse phase, if I had it to guess. But anyways, in this, well, no, it wouldn't be because they confirm that Scarlet Witch died in this book. Okay. I've not got to that part yet. I read the article. So I don't know how I feel about that.
I think it's a nice conclusion, but I'm curious as to really why they killed her off. You know, is it because she aged out? You know, like a Iron Man and Captain America. You know, they've just been playing a part for too long. And they just want to kind of get out from under it. Or do they think that they're gonna kill them off and bring them back some other point? I hope they don't get into this cycle of, okay, we're going to kill out these main characters, but then we'll figure out some kind of way to bring them back later. I think it devalues, the character at that moment. If you're going to, resurrect them, just figure out some kind of way to keep them alive and keep them moving. But I'm okay with it, man.
Yeah.
I'm good.
See, I don't think I am. I think there's a lot more story to be told there. But now I'm going to read the quote and let's see if you and I interpret it just like this website who won't be named interpreted this quote. In the book, it says Wanda destroys Wundagore, I guess that's the tower she's on, and collapses it upon herself, ending two great threats to all of the multiverse. Ending two great threats. Does that necessarily mean that she's dead, or just collapsing that on top of her at that moment ended that threat that where she was trying to destroy everything or whatnot? Like, to me, that doesn't really 100% say she's dead. I could be reading into it.
It doesn't 100% say that she's dead, but when they say two great threats, then she was one of the threats.
Yeah.
So I could see that, but you would have to think about it and, get the Q&A.
Right.
If you didn't ask me, I wouldn't have thought anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree with you. I saw you see the little light, and that means that she's alive in some kind of way, or that's her light leaving her, right? So you can interpret it either way, which is what they did. They kind of left it up to the viewer to interpret. So now they're saying, okay, well, she's gone, but she was a threat.
Right.
And the reason that she did the collapse was another threat. So either way.
So all right, let's do a little prediction. Do you think that it's a two-part? Will we see Wanda or Scarlet Witch again? Yes or no, in any shape or form?
Yes.
Okay. I agree. Yes. 2, will it be this same variant to steal from Loki, or will it be a Scarlet Witch from another universe?
Another Scarlet Witch.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with. I agree, and I wish the answer. I wish I didn't agree. I wish it was the same one. But anyway, so next up, there is the Marvels. Adrian comes. I was saying to my wife and my daughter the other day, I'm like, I don't know when the last time I've been to the movies. Like it was like every week we're reviewing a movie, and then all of a sudden they stop. Like. Everybody wants to go on strike, But anyway, the Marvels comes out in a couple weeks, and no, I don't know the exact date, but I know it's early November. But the reason I bring this up is I keep going back and forth on this movie. At first, I was like, oh, it looks like a pretty cool movie. Then after watching Secret Invasion, I'm like, I don't really want to see this movie. But then I think back, like you pointed out, Ms. Marvel was a really good show.
Right.
WandaVision, loved that show. And, two of the characters are obviously from those two. Captain Marvel, not so much. I mean, it's not a horrible movie, but it's not great, right? So, I don't know. I guess I'm kind of talking myself back into it. It's a short movie, so what's good is if it sucks, it'll be over quick, dude. Like, you might not even fall asleep.
Right.
It's literally going to be the shortest MCU movie to date, so that's good.
Right.
But there's a rumor about a post-credit scene. Now, I was when I read this article, Adrian, I was thinking about the post-credit scenes lately. And the post-credit scenes, like, in the peak MCU era, and I gotta feel I feel like the new ones, they've not been good. Like, we've not had a really, really good. Like, think about the movies we've reviewed. At least how long we've been doing this. When's the last time you and I said, like, dude, you see that post-credit? Like, imagine what that's gonna lead to.
I definitely don't remember because I don't even watch them anymore. Because it used to be true cliffhangers.
Right.
I think the last one that I saw that I was truly disappointed was, of course, I was disappointed about the entire movie, was The Eternals.
Yeah.
So after that, I was like, dude, I don't even want to bother anymore.
Right.
And also the fact that you're held captive there until they scroll down to the boy that went got the peanuts and the janitor
who washed the cars,
and I mean everything, and it's like, oh my God, when is this stuff really going to be over with?
Right.
And then they hit you with something that's not impactful.
Yeah.
There's no bite to it.
Right.
And you just walk out the movie deflated, regardless of what the movie was like. It's like, oh, dude, these used to be cool.
Right.
Now they just like nothing.
Yeah. I think as you were saying that, I was trying to think back to the last one that I think even made an impact, or it made me that more excited to see the next movie, and I want to say it was Spider-Man Far From Home. Mm-hmm. So that was the one with Mysterio, and if you remember that post-credit scene, Jonah J. Jameson gets on the at Times Square and reveals his identity. Mm-hmm. That was a major which set up that whole next movie, which set up bringing these villains from a different multiverse. Like, that was the last time we had a really impactful one, in my opinion.
Yep.
and that was a few years ago, man.
Yeah.
And even that was after a string of bad ones, right? Like there. So why do I say that? Why do I bring that up? The Marvels is rumored to have one of these big post-credit scenes. They said that it's going to have a cameo, and the direct quote was, "Someone who was perfect casting for a certain role and never got his chance to do justice with it because they wasted him on a shitty movie, and that individual's coming back." That could be plenty of people.
Right. Well, it's Marvel and not DC, so it's not Nicolas Cage.
Right.
And as long as it's not him or anybody that played anything in Eternals, I think I'm good.
It's not George Clooney. We know that.
Right.
And it's definitely not Ezra Miller. So we're good about that. But, you think about perfect casting where they never got their chance. I mean, dude, You can't say Wolverine because he ended up getting his shine. But
you just don't know who actually went out for these parts.
Right.
You don't have that information.
Yeah.
You could probably guess if you got a multiple choice list or something. But just to sit here and like, oh well, who? It's kind of hard.
Yeah, it could be anyone.
Right.
It could be freaking anyone. So. Well, that I'm excited for to see if that. First of all, see if that's true. Right. Now, this is only a rumor, and there was another rumor that they just had a few pictures next to each other, and this is, I guess, from someone who's seen the Marvels. It has a picture of the Marvels, has a picture of Deadpool 3, and a picture of Avengers: Secret Wars, and they just said it's true. Everything's starting to connect. So, I mean, is it someone from the Deadpool movies that shows up in this? Is there some type of connection there? So, this may all be, as they used to say back in the day, Adrian, hogwash.
Right.
It could all be hogwash.
Right.
It could all be bullshit. But
Tom Cruisery.
Yeah, it could be Tom Cruisery. You're right. Oh, here it is, November 10th. So we still got a few weeks before we find out. But there you have it for the Marvels. I'm excited about this. Makes me actually maybe want to see the movie. Because, dude, there's been times where you watch the movies, lukewarm at best,
right? But
ends with a great post-credit scene, and it kind of almost like it's not as disappointing. You're like, at least it's going to lead to something else.
Well, maybe what's her face actually pretend like she wants to be in a movie. Brie Larson pretend that she wants to play the character,
right.
and maybe look the part.
Yeah,
I'm more interested in seeing Miss Marvel and the Rambeau character. I like to see those evolve some more. And I'm going in anticipating that Brie, this is going to be the last time I see her, so I'm kind of excited about it. Kind of like get that last stamp that, hey, this chick is like going away.
Right.
Hooray.
All right, last piece of news, Daredevil Born Again. We've talked about this show a lot. It's in the news a lot. And, a few weeks ago we talked about Kevin Feige firing some writers for the show. He saw a couple episodes filmed, didn't like it. They've hired a showrunner, something that the MCU has never done for their Disney Plus shows. They've always just ran them like movies. So they hired a showrunner, and the showrunner worked on The Punisher, the Netflix show, which I've actually not seen. You're a big fan of, right? No, I started my watch, of Net because I missed that whole. I didn't watch any of those shows, so I started the Daredevil show. I watched season 1, which I loved. I started a little bit of Jessica Jones, and then honestly just got sidetracked with other stuff.
Right. The Punisher was visceral, dude. I mean, he just goes in. It's almost like I'm trying to think of a movie that was kind of shocking. The visuals, but as far as a streaming platform, and a comic movie, this was visceral. So I was really impressed. And then you follow it up with Daredevil, which isn't as much blood and guts, but it's still you feel the impacts.
Yeah.
So it's like watching a true to life Batman movie. How they deal with the pain and the drugs that they got to take, and how they have to medicate themselves to just get back up and do the same stuff again the next day.
Right.
So I was impressed by it.
Yeah, no, it's funny you say that about the Daredevil show. In watching the first season, I thought several times, like, this would be a great Batman show.
Yeah.
Like, if you could do this in this level of brutality, this grounded, this, the characters with expressing these emotions, that'd be great for the Batman world.
Yep.
But the rumor is that this guy who worked on The Punisher is going to be he's been tasked with rewriting the episodes that Kevin Feige canceled. Mm-hmm. So he's gonna be writing for this show, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah.
And then they've also hired the directors of Loki, two of the directors from Loki, to direct the remaining episodes of this show, which I also think is a good thing. I mean, Loki, we'll talk about that in a little bit, but so I think this is a good one. Adrian, do we not have a buster this week? It's kind of been a trend here.
No, I don't think so, man.
I don't think so either. I mean, I guess maybe if I had to pick a buster, maybe it's the guy who pitched the Clayface movie. You know what? The more I think about it, think about it, dude. Like, of all the this guy, he is someone who has the ability to pitch a movie to the studio, right? Of all the Batman villains,
right?
Two-Face. We already did the Joker one, Riddler, Catwoman, Penguin. I mean, the list goes on and on and on, right? Poison Ivy, Ra's al Ghul. Of all the villains, this dude said, you know what? We should do a movie about Clayface. I got to say he's a buster.
Right.
I got to say he's a buster.
Yeah, I'm kind of feeling that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, really?
Come on,
really?
bro.
But they said the same thing about Thor. Like, are we really going to make a movie about this guy?
Yep.
And, I mean, at least the first couple of them were decent.
Yeah.
And it got ridiculous toward the end.
Right.
But, hey, you never know. But, yeah, on the surface, Clayface.
Yeah, that's a buster move right there.
Yeah.
Yep. So Mike Flanagan, newsflash, buddy. Nobody, and I mean nobody, wants to see a Clayface solo movie. Well, there you have it. Newsflash, buddy, this week. Adrian, your segment. Actually, I said to you last week, I said, you should do something spooky, right? And I was very intrigued or interested. I was thinking throughout the week, I'm like, I wonder who he's gonna pick. Cause I'm like, I don't even know. I mean, there's some spooky characters, but with something Halloween theme, right? Now, before we get into that, are you a Halloween guy?
I am not.
Okay.
I understand it. I kind of deal with it.
Yeah.
But I'm not a big Halloween guy. No, I'm a Christmas guy.
You're a Christmas guy, right?
Yep.
Yep. I'm not my big Halloween guy. Some years. This year, not so much, honestly. I mean, there's been other years we decorate the house, we do a lot, but with young kids, like we just did a trunk or treat a few days ago. We're going trick or treating, this week, the whole deal. So Halloween guy, but do you have a favorite Halloween candy, or did you as a kid?
Those candy corns.
Oh, dude. So the reason I asked you, Adrian, is because I was going to give you my favorite, which I really didn't have a favorite, but I have a least favorite.
Right.
You know what it is?
Candy corn.
It's candy corn.
Yeah.
So you are one of those people that actually likes candy corn. This is not planned. I had no idea.
I liked I haven't had candy corn in probably 20 years.
Oh, my God.
So I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I used to eat when I was a kid that I don't even like now. I mean, like the
But
sweet
you remember
stuff.
liking candy corn as a kid?
Yes.
Wow, like they put it in your basket and you would eat the candy corn before the Snickers, maybe?
I wouldn't go that far.
Okay.
But I was kind of like, whatever my hands touch first, I would just eat it.
Okay, you're one of
but
those
I definitely
kids,
remember
just,
yeah. But
so
see, there was also back in the day where it was safe to have open candy. Now you got to have like that hard plastic wrap, and you got to cut it open with a utility knife.
Yeah, exactly.
Just to get to the one candy corn.
Yep.
They before they start putting razor blades in the Snickers bars and stuff like that. So it was a whole different time.
Yeah.
So
wow. So I've never liked candy corn.
Really?
I've eaten it, Adrian, twice.
Really?
Yep. You know what's happened both times I've eaten candy corn?
Cavities?
I threw up instantly. So I was in I got a funny story because I was buying.
That's funny by itself.
And this is, we say this is only comics. We only talk about comics, right? This is about comics because I went to the store. Do you remember Bradley's?
Yes.
So there used to be a Bradley's in New London.
Yep.
I went to Bradley's. This was early 90s. I was probably, I don't know, 7, 8 years old maybe. Wow. I was a big X-Men fan at the time, so there's why it's on Only Comics. I was going to Bradley's. Bradley's had a toy section. And this is when they used to make those uncanny X-Men action figures, right? So there was a Wolverine one. Now, by today's standards, it's a shitty toy. The claws come out, and they're curved, and all 3 claws are, together in one, right?
Yeah.
So, and it has like this little spring action thing in the arm where they pop back. So, as a kid, it's the coolest shit ever, right? So I wanted it. They had it. I saw it with my friends. We went and hit it because I lived close to the store. We like hit it and then went back later. Like my mom would buy it, and it was around Halloween time. And, we're checking out by the register. The candy's by the register.
Right.
And I don't think I'd ever had candy corn at the time. And I asked for it because it looked cool. It was around Halloween. I think it's probably the first time I've seen it. And, Mom's like, yeah, sure. And then, of course, I want to eat the candy in the store. I was that kid. Of course. Right? Yeah. And then, we're going back and forth. And finally, she's like, hey, just eat the fucking candy, like one of those. And then, so open it up. Dude, I must have put like 2 or 3 pieces, like 2 little candy corns in my mouth, dude. I chew it up. No lie, Adrian. We take about 3 steps. We're getting ready to get to the counter, and I literally turn and just, bam, blow chunk right there.
Wow.
It's like, whoa, I don't want no more candy corn. And then I ate it again later in life, at probably 3-4 years later. Same thing. So I'm not a fan of candy corn. Least favorite.
Never had that experience.
Yeah.
I was never really a sweets guy.
Yeah.
But when you're poor, you have 2 or 3 choices.
Yeah.
There's nothing, which was a lot of the time. You can go to the store and make food in the store while you're walking around.
Yeah.
You can make a sandwich in the store.
Yeah.
And so you just walk out with something in your stomach.
Okay.
Stealing, basically.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
Or you wait for your family to come in from the farm, right, and bring whatever roadkill they got, and you eat. So the candy part. We got candy quite a bit because it was easy for them to just pacify you.
Okay.
Right. So so today I just don't eat a lot of sweets. I mean, I'll cook, I'll bake stuff, and I won't even eat it like a dessert. Yeah. I'm not a dessert guy. But candy corns, $100,000, $1 million bar, $100,000 bar, or grand, whatever that.
Yeah, $100,000.
$100,000 bar.
That's a good one.
Honey buns.
Okay.
Powdered donuts. All this is comic related, by the way.
Absolutely. Because you eat them while you're reading your comics.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. I remember making crackers, Ritz crackers.
Yep.
Had a lot of those, right?
Okay.
With a jar of peanut butter.
Yep.
You open the pack, make a whole bunch of little sandwiches, put them back in the pack, and then walk down the street eating them.
Okay.
Or mayonnaise sandwiches.
Mayonnaise
whatever happens.
Tomato sandwiches were good.
Tomato.
Yep.
Tomato. Never
Which is
never
literally
tried
just
that.
bread, tomato, mayo.
Mustard, though. I had mustard sandwich.
Okay. Mustard sandwich.
Mustard and bread.
Yep.
Anyway, but no, candy corn, I do remember it. It wasn't a big thing, but it was just in the fact of it was basically survival for us.
Yeah, okay.
So
Got it. But hey, Ken, there are a few people. It's like black licorice. I had someone. We were doing a trunk or treat the other day, and this lady came over and asked if we had any. I was like, no, God, no. Why would we have that? Like, absolutely not.
Who the hell would come and ask for black licorice?
There's people that like it, dude.
That's the most obtuse thing to ask for.
Or Whoppers.
Licorice.
Do you like Whoppers, little malt balls?
I did, yeah.
Dude, my son, everyone in the house hates them, but like my middle son loves them.
I used to like put them in your mouth, like suck the chocolate off, and then that springy inside, you just kind of smush it with your mouth.
I just hate the flavor. No, my top, I Snickers, Milky Ways, Twix. I kind of like Reese's. I love me some Reese's.
Wait a minute, the balls were like Twix, right? Basically a round version of Twix.
Something about that malt chocolate flavor, dude. I couldn't do it.
You got them in the box.
Yeah.
Got them in that big cardboard, like a milk box or whatever.
Yes, disgusting. Yeah. No, throw them out too. So, all right. Well, there's the Halloween candy. It's a spooky episode. We gotta keep it a Halloween theme. All right, your segment, Adrian, Hidden Gem. Who do we got? Who's on the spooky edition of Hidden Gem?
All right. So this week, this is actually this is one of these characters. So being visual, right?
Yep.
You see the cover. And there's something about the cover that attracts you, and then you end up buying or getting into whatever the character is in that comic because of what's on the cover. Mm-hmm. And this is when I really got into Spider-Man. This is one of Spider-Man's, epic supervillains.
Okay. And
so this week's Hidden Gem is Hobgoblin. Not the Green Goblin.
Not Green Goblin.
Hobgoblin. Now, apparently, Hobgoblin came after the Green Goblin. So that kind of tells you. And this guy came out, in 82 or something like that? So he's been around for a while. Again, he's one of those characters that a lot of potential.
Yeah.
But gets buried for one reason or another throughout the comics, throughout the years. The writers shit on him. The comics shit on him. And they just don't bubble up to the top. But he literally is the predecessor of the Green Goblin. And it's interesting. The guy started out as a fashion designer.
Okay.
He was like a shifty fashion designer. He would go around and steal other fashion designers' ideas,
okay,
and promote them out on as his own.
Yeah.
Until one of them, he was getting ready to do this show, and the person that he stole the designs from exchanged all of his designs with like some old raggedy, like those potato sacks.
Yeah.
So when he did the reveal, he was all embarrassed because all of his mannequins and all this other kind of stuff was, just a bunch of raggedy ass.
That's where Kanye West got the idea for his rag.
Probably. So he had a few people that he was doing this with, stealing stuff from.
Yeah.
One of his rivals, per se, imagine, so these are just fashion designers.
Yeah.
I don't want to say just fashion designers, but they weren't in the comic book world.
Right, they weren't superheroes.
They weren't superheroes or supervillains. So one of his rivals, for whatever reason, was trying to get away from Spider-Man.
Okay.
Right? And this guy jumped down into a sewer, trying to elude Spider-Man. Spider-Man's following him. So eventually he eluded him by opening this door. Open the door, turn the light on, and lo and behold, it was one of the Green Goblin's old lairs.
Okay.
Right? So all of his tech, all of his weapons, his journals, his notes, pretty much everything that you needed to be in order to be the Green Goblin. So this guy, for whatever reason, decides that I'm going to tell this fashion designer about it instead of, selling the stuff himself.
Yeah.
Or donning the costume of, the Green Goblin himself. He decides to tell this fashion designer, hey, I got all this stuff. Why don't you come take a look at it? He takes a look at it. He collects it, makes the guy. It's almost like, I'm going to shoot you, but I'm going to let you dig your grave first, and then I'm going to shoot you, right? So you just fall into it. Made the guy pack all the stuff up into this van. They move all the stuff to his new location. And then when the guy was driving off, he's like, I'm not going to tell anybody. He's like, yeah, I know. And then he blows him up, right? So he takes all of this Green Goblin tech. And as a fashion designer, right, he changes it.
Okay.
Makes it look his own. Change the colors, makes a little flair. And then just like, and we talk about this before, it's like, how is it that there's somebody in every family, every something, they're this tech wizard, right? He goes
only
from,
in comics,
spinning needle and thread to now he starts modifying and improving the Green Goblin's stuff, right? But no real power sets himself, but by having the Green Goblin's gear, he's got all the bombs, he's got the flying bat or whatever he's got. So basically the whole power set, don't need to go into all of that. But he inherits all this stuff and he improves upon it, and that's this guy. And there's different variations of him throughout the years.
Yeah, the one you're telling us about, is that Roderick Kingsley?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Because there's like at least 3 or 4 that wear it.
Right. And that's the one that because I remember reading that episode where the guy finds the lair.
Yeah.
And this Kingsley character goes and starts modifying, and that's when he breaks out to it. All these other guys, I mean, there's different flavors and psychoses involved in all this stuff, but I think I always thought he was a very formidable opponent for Spider-Man, at least in his early years. Spider-Man's early years. I'm really not cool with, you got this fashion designer and all of a sudden now he's this psychotic dude flying around on a mechanical bat or something.
And he's
like
a billionaire
that.
too.
Yeah. Of course he is. Of course he is. But but he was, for me at that age, I was probably 15, 16 when I first saw him.
Okay.
And or earlier, and I was just enamored by the colors, of the Hobgoblin fighting Spider-Man, and it just that whole dynamic. And I like the tech too. Anything that had tech involved in it.
Yeah, 'cause you're a big Iron Man
Yeah,
guy,
exactly.
you know?
So I also like that component too. But Hobgoblin.
Yeah. So I didn't know much about Hobgoblin. Obviously now I do, thanks to the Hidden Gem. And if you like this, guys, check out the Hidden Gem playlist because Adrian does this every week, and phenomenal deep dive on these characters. But this, I think about live action, right? I think how do you not think about live action when you talk about characters, right? Because it's like you see them on paper, and sometimes one of the coolest things to see is them come to life on screen when done right. And sometimes one of the most disappointing things, right? We've not really seen Hobgoblin on screen yet. We've seen Green Goblin a few times, right?
Yep.
I loved, what's his name? William Dafoe's portrayal of Green Goblin. I think he did great in the original Spider-Man movie.
Yep.
And that one, it was very tech-based. It wasn't. It was a suit, a mask. He didn't actually have this goblin look. But then in No Way Home, he comes back, and one thing about the MCU, I think we've seen more true to comic depictions in the MCU, like the costume. We always talk about the X-Men and the Fox movies. Everything was so dark and black. It's like everyone was wearing like Batman suit, and just different variations.
All
of
this
it.
stealth stuff.
Yeah, which I get at the time. It was the first time you see him on screen, but the MCU's been bold with some of their choices. I mean, we talk about the Wolverine suit that we saw in the behind the scenes photos, the bright yellow and blue. So in No Way Home, we see William Dafoe portray a more true to comic Goblin. Like he has the kind of rags that you were talking about, Kanye West Yeezus clothes on, and he even has like a purple and green kind of mix, right? So I think he looked really cool there. But in the original Spider-Man trilogy, if you remember the third movie, which was pretty bad, it was very uneven. Venom was in it. It was a disaster. But Harry, Norman's son, finds the lair. Like when you're describing that scene, I think about Harry, and it's almost like that was the closest we've seen to a Hobgoblin on screen, right? Because it wasn't Norman, it wasn't Green Goblin. He found it. He tweaked some of his dad's stuff. Now his suit was still very techish. It wasn't like these newer age, but that's probably the closest, right? But I would like to see a Hobgoblin on screen. I think that'd be great, especially with the Tom Holland Spider-Man.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, and I would even go as far as saying I wouldn't want to see him, because you see some of this stuff, especially when it comes to the tech. It's like, how the hell did they get this stuff? This stuff costs hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars.
Right?
Yeah, they go and they rob things, they steal stuff, and they can get money like that. But you also got to maintain that stuff. I would like to see a Hobgoblin type villain, right, with moderate tech.
Okay.
But with more psychosis and will and physical performance.
Yeah.
The tech aids him.
Right.
Not, he is all teched out.
Yep.
And
like Norman in No Way Home.
Right.
He didn't have all, because he came from another universe. He didn't have all the tech. He had some.
Right.
And it was more of him being like the two, he'd switch. Like he'd be Norman, and then all of a sudden he's Goblin.
Right.
Like that.
Like
that'd be great.
Yeah. Because it's like, okay, you got Iron Man, and then you got Batman with his utility belt. I mean, stop putting so much tech in it to where because that's not flashy anymore.
Right.
We want to see like a Hobgoblin. We want to see a villain be the villain. Like the Joker. Yeah. He is like off the rail psychosis. Right. What does he have most of the time? A gun, some acid, something simple,
dynamite,
and then he'll just bludgeon you to death. You know? That kind
it reminds me of Dark Knight. He's like, I'm a simple guy, just like dynamite, like it's cheap, But that to your point, that's who he is.
Yeah.
But dude, great pick, Hobgoblin, love it. Guys, check out the rest of the Hidden Gem playlist. Actually, fun fact. So, speaking of Tom Holland, speaking of Hobgoblin, there was, you mentioned that there's several individuals who portrayed Hobgoblin. The first one was a guy, Ned Leeds. So I looked this up. Now, what's Peter Parker's best friend's name in the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies?
Yep. I heard about this too.
Yeah. Ned Leeds, right?
Yep.
Now, we saw in No Way Home, Ned actually has some magic powers, right? Because he does the whole Doctor Strange thing with the ring and shit. And it's almost like, is that a little tease of something to come? You know, because you got the perfect storyline. Ned could get tied. Now, with the end of No Way Home, he no longer knows who Peter Parker is, so maybe this is off the table. But you could have a perfect story where Ned almost gets jealous of Peter because maybe he's spending too much time being Spider-Man. Maybe he don't really need Ned to be the guy in the chair anymore. Right. And now Ned gets a little jealous. It's almost like the whole Gravik thing, right? You said I was to be your guy in the chair. Right. Now I'm not. And of course, the most natural thing to do is then try to kill your best friend, right?
Of course.
So I mean, perfect setup. There you have it. We're writing stories for you here on Only Comics.
That's it.
All right. Well, great segment, Adrian. Next up, we have what's becoming, we'll call us a fan favorite maybe. Sometimes they agree with us. Sometimes they don't. Right. Last week, they're like, I agree with almost everything this guy says. And another guy says, this man is whack. And I just go, yes, all of the above. Sure.
Right. All
right. So, agree to disagree. This is where I rapid fire, Adrian, 10 of my opinions at you. Okay. And you simply tell me if you agree or disagree.
Let's go.
All right. Number 1, Loki Season 2 will change the MCU as we know it.
Agree.
The Long Halloween is the best Batman story ever told.
Agree.
Okay. Candy corn should be discontinued.
Agree.
But I thought you liked it.
I did when I was like 8.
All right, so you agree. Havoc is cooler than Cyclops.
Agree.
Batman has the best rogue gallery in comics.
Agree.
Spider-Man has the best Marvel rogue gallery in comics.
Agree.
Black Adam is better than Black Panther 2.
Agree.
Aquaman 2 should be canceled.
Okay. I can agree.
Okay. Joker 2 will be a weak-ass movie.
Agree.
The MCU Hawkeye is useless as tits on a bull.
Agree.
10 for 10. There you have it.
It happens sometimes.
We agree to agree.
Right.
Let's see. Do y'all agree? I'm going to say no on some of these. I can't wait. You know what the one I'm most interested about is the candy corn one. Right. I can't wait to see. Do y'all fall on my side? Discontinue this shit. It made me throw up twice. I'm never eating it again.
Well, I'm not going to eat it again because you
don't eat candy.
I don't really eat candy. And, I mean, I remember that shit just being sweet, dude.
Yeah.
It literally was like little balls of sugar with some color on it or something.
Something about the flavor, man. I don't know what a candy corn is, but it's not something I ever want to eat again. So, well, there you have it. Agree to disagree. Now we're going to get into our Long Halloween deep dive. As we said earlier, it's our spooky episode, right? It's our Halloween themed. And we said for a long time we were going to do a deep dive into, kind of like I said earlier, I think the best Batman story. I'm saying that today. The best told Batman story for me, Adrian, is The Long Halloween. So we're going to do a deep dive into this. We're going to talk predominantly about the comic, but there's also a 2-part film that was created recently, so we may go back and forth and kind of compare. I don't know. You've not seen the film.
I have not seen
Okay, so we might spoil it for you.
That's okay.
But it follows The Long Halloween, so we're really not spoiling anything.
It is planned. It is planned to watch it. Yeah.
Perfect. But we're going to focus mostly on this. Now, I read this like almost every October, and I think you said the same.
Yep, annually. I always read it in October.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've been doing this since I was 10.
Yeah.
I just can't stop, you know.
Yep. And I don't know about you, but every time I read it, it's like a different story. Because there's so much depth to this. Yeah. Now, Adrian, this was your first time reading this?
First time reading it. I did see the 2-parter.
Yep.
On Showtime. So unlike Hush, it's a little bit more true to the comic.
Correct. Yeah.
As opposed to them swapping things out.
Yeah.
So, but the art styles are completely different.
Yes.
But I like the art style in both.
Because you're pretty critical about art style.
Yeah.
How did you feel about, like, is this the first time you've seen Tim Sale's art like this?
I've seen something similar, so it wasn't shocking.
Yeah.
But it's definitely different.
Yeah.
I mean, he does certain things with texture, and how he renders, and then the color picks up. Yeah. So it's different. It's almost like when I was getting used to Miles Morales Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Yep.
And it's like at first you got to kind of get used to it, and then after that you don't even notice it anymore.
Exactly. So. Yeah, it is almost like, I don't know, striking at first. Like when you first see it, things look out of proportion a little bit, you know.
Maybe just because it looks so different from other comic artist in
Yeah.
the same scene.
Right.
It's like in its own lane.
Right.
You know, it was so unique at the time, and it's so unique now. It's just.
Oh, it's definitely held up. Yeah, you look at it now.
I can't imagine the story in another art style though.
No,
because it's just like so ingrained in that story.
Yeah,
I can't imagine it anyone else.
And it's like, I don't know, it's hard to even describe his art style. It's like, Jim Lee's super, super detailed.
Yeah.
This is not that.
Yeah.
Now it's everything's drawn real cool looking, but there's a lot of like just dead space.
Yeah, there's the balance between negative space and his line values and all this stuff is just so. It amazes me to this day. It'll never not amaze me. Anytime I see an illustration by Tim Sale, it just blows my mind.
Right.
Even something quick that he'll do at like a convention or something like that is just amazing. Yeah, amazing to me the way he balances things.
It kind of reminds me of how I was taught about graphic design, white space, and but today artists, they try to fill up every part of a canvas, and it looks confusing and cluttered. But that's what I like about it, the white space. So it's cool.
Tim Sale can break it down to like your building blocks. How much do you need to sell what you're looking at?
Yeah.
How much do I need to include?
Right.
And it's just, and I will say his Batman is probably one of my quintessential Batmans.
Yeah.
Just the way that he draws the cape.
Yep.
And half the time he's just covered in shadow.
Yes.
It's
like you don't even see Batman till like, I don't know, 4 or 5 pages in. Like you see his shadow first, you see kind of the side. And I think the first panel that you actually see Batman is when Catwoman's kind of kicking him. It's that double page. Like that's a badass spread as well.
An iconic image for him.
Yeah.
It's an iconic image for him.
I love the panels where it's only a few different colors or like one color but different tones.
Yeah.
Like I think about the snowy scene.
Mm-hmm.
Not Harvey's house, but when Batman confronts Maroni outside of the restaurant.
Yes.
And just like the few different colors there, to your point where you see just parts of, you don't have to see the whole thing.
No.
Or where they're in Gordon's office at night with the lights kind of shining through the blind. Yes.
It's still something that's crazy to me today. I've tried to mimic that.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't fit. Tim Sale's fits.
Yeah.
It just feels right. But it's so, I don't want to say simplified, but it's hard to describe his artwork, but it is one of my favorites. I'm really passionate about that artist in particular.
Yep.
Well, they make a point about it, like during the killings, everything is pretty much black and white except the holiday gift and the blood. So everything stands out. I mean, well, not everything, but the blood in the like whether it's a Father's Day tie or a Christmas wrapped gift or the cornucopia or whatever it is, that's in full color, but everything else is in black and white. So that's pretty cool.
There's that one of my favorite pages in the whole book is that double page spread of Scarecrow. And it's almost all shadow. Yeah. Almost all silhouette. Almost. But in that negative space, it's so cool. It's amazing. The perspective and the weather and everything going on there was just amazing.
I will say, talking about the movie a little bit, Adrian, one of the best kills in the movie that's not in the comic is the elevator scene. When they're in Falcone's or Falcone, I guess, depending which one you're but they're in Falcone's like penthouse, right? That iconic penthouse, and I think it's his sister Carla who's killed in the elevator, and they're like, "Where's Carla? Where's Carla?" Holiday kills her and sends the elevator up, and they all, here she is, and it opens up and she's there like dead, and it has one of those kind of like snapshots. That's what I love about the movie too, is just like the comic, you're talking about those murder scenes, right? Or where just a part of it's lit up or colored or whatnot. In the movie, they do something similar with every death. They kind of have like a freeze frame. The movie, it doesn't look like the art style of the comic, but it's very unique as well. Like there's not another animated movie that has an art style like that.
Right. I when I was looking at the movie, I was like, wow. I mean, this is very. There's not like a lot of shade in Batman when he's costumed up. Yeah. But you could see his expression. You can almost feel what he's feeling. Especially when I mean, of course, we had to suffer through another parent getting shot in the alley event.
Of course.
I mean, I really liked the artwork in the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely. So a couple of things, like I kind of put some notes about things I love about this comic, and I was thinking to give it a score. I'm like, how do I not? Maybe I'm a little riding the hype train right now, but how do I not just give it a 10 out of 10? Like, is there anything you can critique about this book?
No, for me, no. Maybe it's because I'm too closely attached.
Yeah,
to it.
maybe that's it for me too.
It has to be either. If it's not like my favorite, it has to be the second favorite. I mean,
yeah,
like it's one of my top.
Right.
Read it every year.
Yeah,
it's one of those that you just can't really get out of your head, and it exists in that space perfectly for me.
Yes,
absolutely.
What about you, Adrian? If you had to give us a score, the comic.
I'm gonna hover around like a 8.5.
Okay.
Because I'm kind of really nitpicky.
Yeah.
Like, for example, Batman didn't really solve any problems. He didn't solve the case.
True.
Matter of fact, he had no idea. He was completely off on who the killer was. Also, I mean, he was what, in this police outfit or whatever with the helmet on, and then he took that off and he's got like his 15 feet cowl on top of his head. So I mean, how is that even possible? But there's that. I mean, just like little nitpicky stuff. But I did like the fact that it was, well, I mean, this portrays him when he's pretty much early on in his Batman career, but he's already assembled a lot of villains that's after him.
Yeah.
And especially Grundy. I found that interesting because Grundy, he was able to talk Grundy down from killing one of the guys in the sewer.
Yeah.
So that means
Mickey.
that they've had, because Grundy is just out there.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they had some kind of relationship some time ago.
Right.
So I don't know if they accelerated all of these things because a lot of supervillains are in this thing. But for him to be early on, I mean, he just made a bunch of enemies very quickly.
Yeah. That's why I look at movies like The Dark Knight, obviously very inspired by this. Also, The Batman.
Oh yeah.
And in that movie, I mean, you think about, to your point of Batman not really solving anything. Batman didn't really solve the crime in that movie. Riddler his plan happened.
Yeah.
He accomplished his plan, and then the story is more about Batman going from this whole vengeance guy to more of a hero. And this one was, I think because I agree that he didn't solve the crime. I mean, they just Two-Face. Harvey became Two-Face, and Holiday was killed.
Yep.
But so Batman as a detective failed. But I think this story for me was more about Batman moving away from the small time, like the mob, the actual human villains, and then like that page where all the villains are together is kind of like that transition from you're going from fighting these mob bosses to now actual supervillains. It's to more of the spooky. You got Scarecrow in there. Because Joker was like a sideline character in this.
Yeah.
Which I liked.
Yeah.
Right.
Because, I mean, we've said this before. They lean too heavy on Batman Joker. Everything's going to be Batman Joker, Batman Joker.
It was, and the way that they portray Joker in this, I love it.
Yes.
Yep. It's just he's drawn so fun.
Yeah.
And he acts like quintessential Joker.
Yep.
Like just, well, I don't want another murderous psychopath to be in this city, so I'm going to find out who.
Yeah, I'm just going to kill everyone.
Until I can find out who he is. That's that character.
Yep. Yeah, no, it was well. I mean, Jeff Loeb, talk about writers, like, and you were saying, is this my number one, number two? I'd probably right now put this number one.
Yeah.
My number two would be Hush, also written by Jeff Loeb.
Yeah.
And now I didn't know that, but this dude has like Hollywood writing credits prior to even writing comic books.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he wrote on a few TV shows, some movies, but I think he writes Batman. Like, I wish he wrote more. He writes Batman better than just about anyone. He understands the character.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you have some writers who, it was a big thing for a while, they would write him as Bat God.
Yeah.
Nothing could touch them.
Right.
Everything is just perfect about him, but he does write him as like a fallible character.
Yeah.
I was thinking, so in this thing, I think somebody mentioned, I don't know if it's Joker or someone else, about how Batman is the reason that all of these criminals are showing up in Gotham.
Yep.
And just like Batman thinks of himself as Batman first and Bruce Wayne second, he kind of denies that he's the reason that these villains, these maniacs are in Gotham.
Yeah.
So it's like he don't believe it, or he's just flat out denying it. But I mean, that one scene, tells it all. I mean, you got Grundy, Catwoman, who's kind of, whatever
Yeah.
fulfills her. Ivy, Joker, Riddler. I mean, you got all of these characters, and these aren't just run of the mill kind of criminals that would be running around town with a gun or a bat or something.
Right.
I mean, Ivy has basically powers.
Yeah.
Then Grundy, he's supernatural. Riddler just insane. I don't even know. And when did he become such a cat burglar?
Right.
He's running all up into people's houses while they sleeping and stuff, whispering in their ears and stuff. So I mean, he is the reason that all this stuff is there.
Right.
And he's denying it. So that was interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost like he stepped in to solve this one problem. Which, and that's kind of what this story tells you, right? He solves the mob problem in a way, like they're put away, but now he, to your point, created this other issue.
Right.
And now he's stuck here, protecting Gotham. It's kind of like that's been one of the things with Batman, right? He's basically stuck. Mm-hmm. You can't leave. Yeah. And he even takes ownership, like he says, it's my city.
Created a situation where he can't leave.
Yeah.
And also, you brought up a good point. I love the way Gordon is written in this.
Yes.
Gordon is probably one of my favorite characters in this whole series. Because, I don't know, just something about him. He's like the average guy implanted in the story. You can relate to him. You understand his problems with his marriage and just that character. The way he's written in this, I think, is one of the best.
Yeah.
And we had a discussion a week or so ago, a couple of weeks, about Gordon. One, how he's being portrayed in the new Batman, which I don't like.
Yeah.
Because that spins off into all other kind of things that need to be now. You got to shore up that character in this new Batman. But I think just like Alfred and the Bruce Wayne's parents getting killed, I think Gordon is as responsible or should get as much credit for creating Batman as anything else.
Yeah.
Because he did allow him to operate in the city.
Right.
Unlike other commissioners who sick the whole police force out on him.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he was a pivotal role in the creation of Batman, or at least how Batman evolved. And he was the only one that was able to talk Batman down from killing the Joker. I don't think anybody else would have been able to do that.
Oh yeah, you're talking about in Hush
right.
when he was beating the shit out of Joker in the alley. You're right. That no one else would have talked. Nope.
I love Gordon. He's one of my favorite characters in that series.
I struggle with the on-screen depiction of Gordon. I don't think we've seen a definitive portrayal of Gordon yet. I mean, the best was Gary Oldman in the Dark Knight series, but even that was wasn't like Gordon in the comics. Right. I mean, he was like a militant, badass, and what I like about this Gordon is about one of the other big things I love about the story is it takes place in year one continuity. So I remember reading about when they were deciding to create this comic. I think they asked Frank Miller, what are you doing with those characters? And he basically said, I don't care, do whatever you want with them. Because Frank Miller wrote year one, and it was kind of that new take, this darker take on Batman. Because prior to that was when Batman was pretty goofy in the comics.
And then I think the Dark Knight Returns really changed that. And then they went ahead and did the year one. I think year one came after the Dark Knight Returns.
I think you're right. Yeah.
All right.
But it was all around the same time, like mid to late 90s. So that was where that shift of Batman from being this, laughable, the Adam West version, the comedy, to this darker version. So they asked him, he's like, I'm not doing anything with the characters. Do whatever you want. And then Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale worked on, you were texting me about this the other day, The Haunted Knight. So this is another one. This is not, it's kind of like its own thing.
Yeah.
But it's, if you look through it, it's the art style is a lot like,
it's different Tim Sale. It's definitely different Tim Sale.
Yeah, it is. It's a little
His
different.
panel design in that is really different too. That was they did a Halloween special together every year, right?
Yeah.
And then they ended up making it its own book. And
yes.
That is what made Long Halloween, because they made a Halloween special every year, and then they came up with this bigger story around Halloween.
Yeah, I guess they were approached at a convention, the two of them, and they were like, do you guys want to do some more Batman work? Because this did so well.
Yeah.
And then that's when they kind of challenged them to do this. And I mean, and it was a big deal. You think about it, 13 issues, an issue a month. That's over a year. You're committing to the story for over a year.
Yeah.
First of all, it better be good.
Yeah.
Right? I wish I would have experienced it real time.
Out,
I read this after.
Right.
That'd have been cool to be waiting month to month, because I don't know about you guys, at what point, well, first of all, did either one of you predict the first time you read this, the who Holiday was?
Absolutely not.
No.
Absolutely not. But I mean, it was kind of confusing. I had to go back to it a couple of times because there apparently were 2 holidays. So, and I definitely didn't expect it to be who it was at the end. So it was definitely interesting. That's what the most that I got out of this, besides the artwork, and that it was just a true detective story. Not that Batman was the detective in this, because he wasn't, but it was like plot twist up to the very end. It was like the whodunit until the very end, and it was kind of shocking. I mean, a couple things didn't really fit together, like. How does she know that, Harvey was Holiday and then took up the mantle, or was it, so it was kind of tricky. Still some unanswered questions at the end.
Yeah, a little plot messiness. And so I guess if you could critique it, maybe some of that stuff was a little messy. Yeah. So maybe I'd have to bump it to like a 9.8. That's about as low as I'm going, Chris. I'm not going any lower than 9.8 on this
A few more minutes, I'll talk you down a little bit.
Yes, how it works. I'll talk him up. He'll talk me down.
I'm definitely like emotionally attached to the story too. It's hard to remember like what my first impressions of it were, because we're talking back in, had to have been like 7th grade.
Yeah.
That I read it.
Wow.
So I have like a long history of it.
I did not. I mean, I think I thought it was Harvey for a minute. I didn't think it was Gordon. So I didn't know till the last minute. And I same with you, Adrian. Even now when I read it, I'm like, I have to really pay attention at the end, because I'm like, wait a minute, who was actually the killer? Like, was it both of them? And I think what they get at is there's 3. I mean, essentially it was Gilda.
Yeah.
And then Alberto was involved in at least 1 or 2 murders.
Yeah.
And then Harvey, or Two-Face, was kind of the last one. Right. So, but technically, but I guess you'd say it's more.
And I
Gilda.
like that. It does leave a lot of questions at the end of it, which I love when a detective story kind of does that, which I guess is unfulfilling.
Right.
But I do like when it kind of leaves you with still a couple questions, like, all right, the case is solved.
Yeah.
Did we really solve it?
What was the kid? Did he actually kill anybody, or did he just fake his death?
He faked his death, but I want to say he killed one person, at least one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Was it the first one?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
That's what I'm saying. Is that there's still a couple questions.
You're right. See, even I just read it like this week, and I'm still.
All right. Yeah. Yeah.
To be continued. We'll tell you next week. But now, one thing I didn't like about the movie, Adrian, is, I mean, it was similar, where Gilda was the killer, but I don't like how Batman showed up and talked to her and found out she was the killer, and then just walked away.
That's some sorrow stuff. I mean, it's like, what are you going to do with that? She's obviously mental to some degree anyway.
Right.
She always has. She was that way throughout the entire storyline.
Yeah.
And then at the end, she lost her husband. I mean, she's almost gotten blown up. Right. When they, but then again, if it wasn't for her mental state, them being in the backyard away from the house, they would have been gone early on.
Exactly.
So I think he was just like, you're really not going to do anything at this point.
Oh, yeah, I think it makes sense for him. I just hate that they wrote that in there. Yeah. Like, almost like I like I like the ending in the comic better.
Yeah.
To where he doesn't confront her and he doesn't even know it's her. I think, but, that was part of your critique, right? That Batman didn't solve it. So it kind of seems like in the movie they wanted Batman to still solve it, even though he solved it after the fact. Mm-hmm. So maybe that's why it was thrown in there.
Well, I don't call that solving after the fact. It's maybe realization.
Figured it out.
It is realization, but no detective work for. I give it like a 1 on the detective work for Batman. Gordon did all the work on this one, or somebody else did, or the movie just rolled out the way it did.
Yeah.
But I mean, also what is the Falcons? I mean, they just got their whole family wiped out.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
I mean, everybody pretty much. So that was interesting.
Yes. Which I love the mob aspect of this, because I'm a big mob guy growing up. Anyways, Goodfellas, one of my favorite movies ever, and Jeff Loeb did say that The Godfather was a big influence on this comic, and I love how it starts with a wedding. Like almost most mob movies, right? Godfather 1 starts right with the wedding, so I love that aspect. I like the Batman Catwoman relationship in here, and talk about continuity. I mean, Hush takes place in the same continuity, right? Mm-hmm. So you kind of see the beginning of their relationship here, and you see it much more advanced in Hush, where they actually find out, they figure out that, he's Bruce and she's Selena or whatnot. But I like this, and it reminded me of their dynamic in the Batman. Mm-hmm. And there was a key point with these two where, they're getting pretty close, and Batman kind of like pushed her off. Mm-hmm. I think it was like 4th of July, and then that kind of led to her leading more towards working with the villains. Because to your point, she's in the photo at the end. But if you notice, she's kind of off to the side.
Yeah,
right.
There's more space between her, and this is a little stuff about Tim Sale. Like, there's more space between Catwoman and the rest of the rogues. Yeah. But she's still there.
And can you name? That's a good point too. Can you name another story that utilizes the rogues to the point that he does?
No.
He goes into that bucket, and they try to use whoever they can.
Right.
I can't name a lot of other stories where they all like progressively start teaming up like that until the end. It's a great rogues gallery throughout this. I mean, even Calendar Man. I love that character.
Yeah. I mean, after this, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
I'd actually never even heard of him.
No.
Before then, but he was like a 5th tier kind of person.
Yeah.
But they portrayed him as being something a little bit more robust, a little bit more mysterious.
Yeah. It's like a Hannibal Lecter almost.
Yeah. Matter of fact, they did. You can see some slides. I mean, if you actually look at the innovation for the movie, the tub scene was The Godfather.
Yeah.
Right? The Calendar Man was Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah.
So you see particular things like that.
Yeah.
You can see where they got the inspiration from, which is cool. Is cool.
Right. Absolutely. I definitely like Calendar Man. I don't think I ever heard of him prior to Long Halloween either.
Prior to this, no.
No. So I thought that was a good addition because they made you think that it could have been him as well.
Yeah.
Even though he's in the damn prison. Mm-hmm. And actually, I was in the absolute version, which I promoted this last week. And DC, y'all send me some more because I'm promoting your shit here. All right. The absolute versions, it's literally the best way to read comics. Yeah. I mean, dude, the artwork in here.
Yeah.
Like, look at that. Dude, it's as big as my big ass head.
Yeah.
So. Anyway, in the back of this, though, they talk about the original pitch, and they actually, the original pitch is in here, and Calendar Man was the original holiday killer.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. I forget whose idea it was to kind of switch it up, but that was like the original pitch when these two decided to work together on this.
That would have made sense because he was like a psycho going around just killing people anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, with his what they call it? With his garbage man suit on.
Yeah.
It's just interesting. So.
Yeah. I think I said this to you before we started recording. I think the Harvey Dent Two-Face arc, I think this is the best representation we've ever seen of that character.
Yeah, because you really kind of like see Harvey as like a normal guy.
Yeah.
You're like, I can relate to that character. He's, fighting for good. He seems like the everyman.
Yeah.
And especially the scenes with him and Gordon. Right? You can imagine that relationship forming.
Right.
And then how detrimental that could be,
Absolutely.
This guy goes off the deep end.
He was like a 3rd-tier character in the early Batman days.
Yeah.
When he got introduced, he kind of like
like
fell
a
by the
joke,
wayside. Right. But then somebody reintroduced him like in 82, 87 or something like that. And then he became, alongside pretty much all the Batman movies. So that's pretty cool.
I mean, you talk about rogue galleries, and I'll say Batman has the best one in comics. But, I mean, that's a great character, Two-Face. Yeah. This district attorney, I mean, trying to fight crime. He at his wit's end. He's going, like, above and beyond and kind of, bend but don't break the rules. And then it almost follows which you see so much in Batman, that one bad day concept, right? Like, he just, at one day, pushed him over the edge.
That one scene where there's Gordon, there's Harvey, and there's Batman. They're all on that rooftop, and they make that deal. Yeah. They're like, all right, we'll work together. They make this pact.
Right.
You can imagine that, like how powerful that is, where like the law and this vigilante is coming together, and they're all working on different sides of this coin. Right. And they're like, all right, we will come together and do this. We can bend the rules, but we cannot break them.
And Gordon's mediating.
Yes.
He was like, okay, so I got a basically a lawyer. I got a lawyer and I got a vigilante, and I'm gonna allow them to work together.
Yeah.
And as long as we don't, cross the lines, we can break some stuff, but as long as we don't cross the line, we can do this kind of thing. So that was pretty cool.
That's for me is a powerful scene. You know, that's like a big thing, because Gordon is like this big beacon of of justice.
Right.
He is the law.
Right.
To me. So to see him on this rooftop making this
Right.
this deal, essentially a deal with someone who works outside of what he can do.
Right.
I don't know. That's a big, powerful scene for me.
Well, in the new Batman, it's kind of the same thing. I mean, he's literally bringing Batman inside the precinct.
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
and protecting him from, you know, every police in there that wants to arrest him and or kill him.
Yeah.
And then set it up so that he can escape.
Yeah.
You know, so that sends a pretty powerful statement too. But now I got a question for you. Who thinks Catwoman went into that warehouse, skimmed off a couple of million before she brought Batman to that joint? I mean, I know she likes her stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, but that was a lot of money, dude.
Probably could have. Oh, that's on that same token. When Harvey and Batman go and they burn down the pile of money.
Yeah.
I just love that scene.
Yes.
And Harvey's thinking, if we were two other kind of guys.
Yes,
like,
I love
we're
that.
not.
He's like, but we're not.
We're not.
Right.
I know. I was just saying. I love that. I love that interaction.
Yeah. It's one of the reasons I love the Batman character because he's always Batman. He don't waver. Like even there is like, but we're not, dude. Let's go.
We're not, we're not.
But the thing about it
tolerance.
is that he has so much money that he's so accustomed to having that not many things tempt him.
Right.
Obviously, he's got a problem with women.
Yeah.
But outside of that, right? I mean, not too many things tempt him. So
No. But that Harvey Dent arc, phenomenal, and that rooftop scene. We pretty much saw that in The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
That's I think me and you go back and forth kind of jokingly about that. Like I'll shit on The Dark Knight like to mess with Adrian. He'll make fun of the Batman, but in reality, I mean, I love The Dark Knight. It's great, And I'm that and the Batman. They're like right, 1A, 1B kind of for me. But one of my favorite aspects about The Dark Knight is definitely not Christian Bale or his fucking atrocious voice. It's definitely not that. But I love the parts that the inspiration they pull from The Long Halloween with that dynamic between, because you see that same arc. I mean, I said it's the best. It's Dent's been portrayed best in Long Halloween. Second best is in The Dark Knight for me. His story in that. I think the only thing that would have made that better is if that character was also in Batman Begins, so we would have lived with him a little bit longer.
Right. Yeah.
But I love that about that series of movies.
Cool.
What else we got? You mentioned Solomon Grundy. I think it was a great portrayal of Solomon Grundy. Yeah. I love the fight. Like where Batman now, sometimes with artwork like this, sometimes it's hard for me to figure out what the hell's happening. But Batman does shove his finger up his nose, right? Yeah. That is what happens. I'm not confused about that.
Yeah,
dude, talk about a way to fuck somebody up. Holy shit. Dude just said, you know what? Enough. Like, just take this finger right up your big ass nostril.
Yeah. So does that mean Solomon Grundy is pretty much impervious only on the outside?
I guess. Yeah.
So like, if he were to take one of those bat bombs and shove it down his throat, he'd kill him instantaneously.
And even the interaction with Batman and him, where he still goes and he gives him a thanks.
Yes. Yeah.
That is. I love that.
Yeah,
that little thing where he still makes good. He's just like, you know what? He was innocent in all this. I'm gonna make right on that.
It's almost like, he does things. He looks at the intent and the future outcome of villains and makes a decision about them, like he did with the wife, right?
Yeah.
He's like, she's done. She's already lost so much.
Right.
She's not going to be a threat in the future. So I don't even need to bother with her. Solomon Grundy, there's nothing that you can do about him. There's nothing you can change about him. You either disintegrate him or leave him alone. So he figures out a way to interact with this creature, basically, born on Monday, going down the thing, and just left him alone. So I agree. I think that's cool.
Yeah.
I love the scene with Two-Face and Solomon Grundy when he's still wrapped up. Now, this is a scene that it's so much, I wouldn't say better, but it's so... The movie did such a great job of portraying it because the guy who does the voice for Harvey Dent and Two-Face is phenomenal. And I love him talking in the Two-Face voice to Solomon Grundy. because he's just saying the same shit, and then he finishes the little song or whatever, like, so you were reincarnated. Is that what happened to you too? Like in the Two-Face voice, like it's just great. There's some scenes like that in the movie. You gotta watch it. It's phenomenal.
All right.
But I love that use of and it kind of think about Jeff Loeb, and you see some similarities, a lot of similarities in this with Hush as well. He doesn't fight Solomon Grundy, but he fights, is it Killer Croc, I think, in the beginning. So it's like he has to have Batman fight some big-ass creature, I guess, in the stories.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like, okay, we need to set the audience up that Batman is the master of this of this whole platform.
Yeah.
And then we can get into the detective part.
Right.
I think that is like the premise.
Yeah.
Definitely. When I read Hush, that's what I got from that intro, is that Batman is the master of this world.
Yep.
All right, now we can get into everything else, but you kind of set that precedent for that character.
Even in Hush, when he's like basically telling like the feds, like, "Yo, chill out, this is my city."
Yeah,
like
no,
to the FBI, like,
Yeah.
like he is. Batman has no fucks to give,
Right.
None.
And everybody yields.
Yeah,
Everybody yields. I
Yeah.
mean, he's at base, he's a vigilante, a criminal himself. But everybody yields. So I mean, the results, I guess, speak for themselves.
And I like how there's no, a lot of Batman stories you have, even Hush, you have like Superman, or you have somewhat of that intervention from the rest of the DC universe. This is a very isolated story for Batman. It's just him fighting the mob and his band of rogues, and it's a very solemn Batman story.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, there's no Bat family yet. There's not even a Robin, which I like that about this.
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
I would be interested to know how much time, because again, it's kind of confusing. He's got, they say, his early years. Obviously, it's not year 1, it's year 3, it's a year 5. But he's surrounded by so many super villains at this point already. I'd be curious to know like how much time went by between, he first putting on the cowl until he ran into somebody like a Superman or anybody. That became part of the Justice League.
Right. Yeah, because there's no Superman mentioned in here. I mean, I think they mentioned Metropolis once, maybe.
I think so.
Like saying that someone is from Metropolis, but there's no even mention of Superman. I think, this takes place not long after year 1. I know that. Yeah. Because year 1, you see which is another great comic, but you see that transformation from Bruce to Batman and from Selina to Catwoman. It's almost like the Batman, the newer one, it takes from both of those.
I think so.
With Selina's origin, right? Because she's a little bit, she's not as progressed as she is in the Long Halloween. Yeah. But yeah, I want to say it's probably year 2 or 3 tops. It can't be much, later after that.
Then a lot's been happening.
Yeah.
He's been very active.
Yeah.
Right.
Very active. One of the, again with the Solomon Grundy. So when he follows this guy down into the sewer, he says the difference between me and you is that I know what's down here and you don't. And then he's next cut over, Solomon Grundy's got his whole face in his palm of his hand.
Yeah.
So it's like how do you be a millionaire, playboy, business owner, Batman, but then he obviously spends time scouring around the city and up under it, right? Figuring out all these locations, so because he pretty much knows where everything is.
Yeah.
So I found that amazing too.
Yeah. I mean, it's I think about the Batman movie, and you think about when he's taking that journal. He's only in year 2 there, right? And you don't see as many villains in that. You have Catwoman's beginning. You got Falcone already. Maroni's already been captured. The Penguin's there. And then the Joker is there, which we learned at the end. So, I mean, I guess to your point, he's Batman. Once he put on that mask, man, he's busy as a motherfucker. Because even in that movie, it's his 2nd year in, and the Joker's already in jail.
Right. And the Riddler is the one that's going around killing everybody. Right. So, so you already got, like, the Furious 5 going on year 1, and he's just kind of walking into it, and it only gets worse from there.
Right. One of the things I thought was kind of funny in this is every villain has like significant mental health issues. You're like, this one's like a paranoid schizophrenic. This one's like a homicidal, whatever. Like everyone has like significant mental health issues. Like everyone Batman captures goes to Arkham.
Right. Yeah. It's almost like if the Joker went out in this series trying to find out who was doing all these killings and stuff, and he didn't like that. I'm surprised he lets any other villain operate in Gotham besides himself.
Yeah.
Because, him and Batman, they got this incestuous kind of relationship. I'm surprised he just didn't take, like, more people out. That would probably be an interesting comic.
Yeah.
If the Joker goes around trying to take out, like, every other villain in Gotham.
Right. Was it a, you'll probably know this, was it a Batman animated series episode where Joker was upset about not being Batman's favorite villain or something like that? Or was that a comic?
I'm sure it was.
Like, I remember either watching or reading something.
There was a comic similar to that. It was Death of the Family.
That's okay. That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, that was Joker was upset that he wasn't like the top of the food chain anymore. He said that the Bat family kind of like weakened him. So that was the premise of that, where he like goes through.
Like, he was legit mad because Batman would not say that he was like his top villain. He's
and
just
in Long Halloween, he's just mad because there's someone else out there. Doing
like, I'm supposed to be the only one doing that.
Yeah,
I like the scene when Joker shows up to Falcone's room.
Yeah,
with the Joker card and just like gives him like a little nick. Like, it's just sick.
Right.
And that's another one that's great in the movie.
Right.
I love the one where he's taking the plane. Where he's taking the plane. That's a funny scene.
Right.
Where he's just talking. He's doing the monologue to himself.
Yes.
I thought he was like reading some instructions or something because the bomb didn't go off initially or something like that.
Yeah, no, that was great. Again, that's another one where it was portrayed great in the film.
Yeah.
And I think, like you said earlier, the Hush film to comic, completely different. But the Hush takes part of like that DCU continuity, so it has to fit that story too. So they changed a lot, and the movie was good, but not nearly as good as the comic, my opinion. But the Long Halloween movie, like Adrian mentioned earlier, it does follow this very closely. It doesn't, and I think most of the changes are for the better. There's not a lot of changes. You talk about the villains. You mentioned this, Chris, where Jeff managed all of these different villains through these 13 months, but I feel like they all kind of got their shine. Right, like you're talking about the Joker scene and his issue. Solomon Grundy, great portrayal. I mean, Scarecrow, a few times, but I love the Poison Ivy issue, where and it set up perfectly when at the end of the previous issue, Selena, he's getting a rose for Selena, whatever, pricks him, and then next issue, all of a sudden he's under her control, and it's been months. Like that was a cool thing to include in a story like this.
It was like 3 months or something. Yeah. He woke up but it goes to show like Selena's protective nature for Bruce and the Batman. So I found that pretty interesting, that dynamic. Yet, I mean, she basically sits by and watch Bruce Wayne with all of these different chicks, right? And Batman with all these other different chicks, because nobody really knows who he is, and she knows who he is, both of his personalities. And she, for the most part, she sits by and just watches all this stuff.
I don't think she knows yet in this one, though. I think she finds out in Hush, right?
I think Selena knows Bruce, Catwoman knows Batman.
Yeah.
And it's still under the guise of like they still don't know that those two worlds collide.
And now Batman knows already that Selena's.
I don't think so.
Or he doesn't know either.
I don't think so. Yeah.
Okay.
The way that it was written here, because otherwise he would have mentioned it more in his monologues.
That's right.
But he kind of
in Hush he knows.
Yes. Yeah.
So at somewhere along the line, But that was
here,
cool.
And here, to your point about the detective work, and here it doesn't seem like he knows who anyone is.
No.
Like he doesn't seem to know who anyone is, other than like certain villains. Like he'll talk about Jonathan Crane, or he doesn't know like the mystery. He doesn't know who the villains are around him. He's still young.
Right.
He didn't get the Chinatown connection either until he was neck deep into those fights and stuff.
Yep.
So normally he would know the criminal, because I'm assuming he just thought this guy was part of Falcone's crew, right? But then he goes to gets caught up in Chinatown. Then this whole other crew comes out, so he didn't know that as well. So that was a whole interesting dynamic. But then who saved his nuts? Catwoman.
Yeah. Speaking of the Poison Ivy, I love that spread too, where they're fighting, where she basically Catwoman jumps in. And all the shit on the tables, like floating in the air behind him, like those 2-page, spreads are phenomenal.
Yeah, I've mentioned the one about Scarecrow.
Yeah,
and it's just like you said, all the double-page spreads. They stay in my mind.
Yeah,
a lot of these images in this book are my quintessential Batman. When I think of it, they're the first thing that come into mind. The way that Tim Sale portrays Batman, it's just very stoic.
Yeah,
and creepy. I don't want to say it's Tim Burton-esque, but it could.
No, but I could see
exist in that realm.
Yes,
absolutely.
You're talking about the rooftop scene, and I love like right when Batman gets there, you got the bat symbol behind him. You got Batman. You just see parts of his face, and it's just like, gentlemen, like
it's. There used to be this saying, and it's true, especially in this book. The less you draw of Batman, the cooler he looks.
Yeah.
So the more you fill it with black, the cooler it looks. And Tim Sale is a prime example of that, where the more you play with the shadow, he looks cooler. I also want to mention like the relationship between all these characters at the beginning, and then like it deteriorating throughout the story is another like amazing component to me. Imagine like this relationship between Gordon and Bruce and Two-Face starting out, and then this deterioration throughout a year. He's got to spend a year together fighting for the good side or whatever.
Right.
And then to see that deterioration in Dent, like that must be a very powerful thing.
Yeah.
Very, very sad thing for these characters to witness at the end of it. And even in the sequel of this, Bruce keeps referencing the stories. Like,
you're right. They do talk about that.
It's getting harder to remember when we were all friends. Like he references that a lot. So even though for us it's like a quick graphic novel experience, imagine if you're these characters that takes place over the course of a year. You spend a long time together with these guys, maybe every night, going in and trying to work on this story.
Well, I mean, you also got to think about Dent. He was fanatic from the jump. When his star witness got killed, he was about to lose it. And I think that was probably why Gordon probably made that little coalition. So he was, right at the edge to begin with.
Yeah.
So it probably wouldn't have taken much. And then all of a sudden what happens? Bruce Wayne / Batman goes away for months at a time because Ivy's got him. So there is no connection.
Right.
There are no answers. Why is this stuff still happening? So I think that part was important too. I mean, that's the other kind of thing too, because if you and I sign some paperwork over to somebody, we're not coming back 4 months later and getting all that shit back.
No.
So that's one of the powers. Like in I guess one of the movies, somebody asked Bruce Wayne, what's your superpower? He's like, I'm rich.
Yeah.
So it was cool, but Harvey, he was about to step out into that abyss anyway.
Yeah.
He just needed it wouldn't have taken much for him to to fall over.
Even throughout the story, Bruce still is, I believe in Harvey Dent.
Yes.
I believe in this city. And then to see that change in him, where he starts to realize, maybe I was wrong.
Right.
That's...
I love the callbacks, with Jeff Loeb's work. Like, even with Harvey Dent, you think about Hush, when Harvey saved Bruce in that comic. Yeah. And it comes full circle. And you think about like Dark Victory, the callbacks from there, like we talking about going back and forth, which is a great, that one I put right up. Like if Long Halloween's number 1 and Hush is 2, Dark Victory's 3 or 4.
I see them as the same story.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely Long Halloween, you can read that as its thing, but I do see them as the same block.
Speaking of the same story, when Batman was chasing Catwoman, I had like a Hush flashback.
Yeah.
I'm ready to see that bullet break that line and stuff. I'm like, wait a minute, which movie am I watching here? But it was interesting that they pull some of that same stuff. But Batman's always chasing the cat.
He is. Yep, he is. There's also a little spinoff, not a spinoff, but a sideline story with Catwoman, When in Rome. I don't know if you've ever read this.
I have not read it, but I've flipped through it.
And that's another one where it's Tim Sale's art. It's not just like this, but it's phenomenal as well. Like the way he draws Catwoman. And I think I've shown you some of those panels. But that takes place kind of, I want to say it's at the same time as Long Halloween, or because I don't know that Falcone's dead in that yet. I think it takes place at, I could be wrong, but Catwoman ends up going to Rome and she's trying to figure out if she's related to Falcone or not. And I think she does figure out that she's his daughter. And Riddler goes with her for some strange reason, and it's a fun kind. It's not dark like this, but it's still Tim Sale's art and Jeff Loeb's writing. It's great.
I saw a show with Catwoman. She's on her own. I forget what it's like something like Everybody's Trying to Kill Her or something like that. So it was a pretty interesting show as well. And I like seeing stuff like that. How these characters can stand on their own, but they don't try to flood the universe with them because they can't really stand on their own. But it's always interesting to see.
Yeah, I think of any villain, we talk about rogue galleries, I think Batman's rogue gallery has the best chance at standing alone. Like then,
Yeah.
you know, and the only one I would say the next for me would probably be Spider-Man's.
Yeah.
I think they have the two strongest in comics.
Absolutely,
you know?
I was gonna say.
I agree with that.
Yeah, but no, this was a phenomenal book. I mean, there's so many. I can't even think of anything to critique, to be honest.
For me, it's very hard. It's very hard to think of any critique for it. Again, I understand I am too close to it, but the artwork in it itself is amazing for me. The writing is this to reread something, to want that experience every year. You know that, and a lot of people. Remember when I was getting into comics, people were recommending Long Halloween to me. Everyone recommends this thing. To like that thing enough where you want to share that experience with everyone. This book came out in the 90s.
Yeah.
You know, it's still one of the top Batman stories of all time. Right. You know, it's aged perfectly.
Yeah.
And it continues to age perfectly.
It's probably been adapted more than any other Batman story.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about Batman Begins, The Dark Knight. You definitely see the influence there. You see it in The Batman. You see the two. I mean, they made 2 animated movies from that. And I mean, you know, Tim Burton stuff came prior to this, but and you've also seen a lot of this in other, like even Batman the Animated Series had a similar arc for Harvey Dent. Like it's been adapted so much, you know, even in some of the games. But to your point, Batman has tons of stories, but this one is just so good that even the most recent one, Robert Pattinson, a lot of elements from this were, you know, and when I every once in a while, every few years, I kind of do this like Batman reread, and I try to like have like my own continuity. Like I'll start with year 1, I'll go to this, I'll read The Dark Victory, you know, I'll get to Hush, and then maybe end up with Dark Knight Returns or something. But like I think for, you know, a trilogy of graphic novels, if you were to start with, you know, or take year 1, this ain't really a trilogy, it's like 4 or 5.
Yeah.
But to me, year 1, Long Halloween, Dark Victory, and then Hush. I mean, you're not going to find a better 3 or 4 part story, and they all do. There's a lot of callbacks between the two. You know, like you're talking about the Batman Catwoman chased on the rooftop looks just like this. But I think that's a phenomenal, you know, 3 or 4 part series. Like, and I've done that a handful of times. I mean, throw the Killing Joke in there. I mean, really want to go to Killing Joke and add some, you know, Red Hood. We're good. You got everything you need.
That's it.
But no, I love rereading this every year. I'm gonna do it again next year. And I actually think as we're sitting here talking, I'm probably gonna bust out this Dark Knight or Dark Victory and go through this. This is another great one. And what I love about both of these stories is it's kind of origin stories for a handful of characters. But I look at the Long Halloween as like the Two-Face origin. Yeah. And then you got, you know, Dick Grayson, Robin origin in Dark Victory. Yeah. Which there's another murder type mystery in that one, which I thought was done. I mean, Holiday was a little bit better because of the Falcone thing, but that one was another great, you know, 13-part mystery. Yeah. I love that.
It's also, Long Halloween is a very grounded Batman story. Yes. You know, I would actually recommend it to like my mother.
Really?
You know, like if you were gonna read a detective story, I think it's, even if you remove the superhero element of it, it's a good detective story. It's a good noir.
Absolutely,
I agree.
Universe, you know, the mob being involved in it, and if you remove like the supernatural aspects of it, like the supervillains and everything, it's still a really enjoyable story just on its own.
But even those supernatural aspects are somewhat grounded, if that makes any sense. It's, I mean, yes, Scarecrow riding the fucking horse coming out of the Arkham Asylum is a little strange.
Is a fantastic scene.
But it looks phenomenal. Yeah. And I love how it's always, you know, especially in Jeff Loeb's stories, it's always thunder and lightning in Gotham.
Yes. Yeah. Wow. Yes.
Like they just must have the world's record for most thunderstorms a year.
Always over Arkham.
Yeah. Always. Yeah. Especially over Arkham. Yeah. But no, phenomenal. Love it. I think I'm going to settle on Adrian 9.8. All right. You can't talk me down anymore.
I'm good. I'm good with that. Yeah. You know, I'll do. I realize I'm like overly critique, so I'm gonna stay with my 8.5. Okay. So I'm good with that.
Right. Yeah. What about you, Chris? Give it a score.
I'd probably land hard on it. I'd give benefit of the doubt 9.5.
Okay, 9.5.
You know, I'd land on that. But you know, Tim Sale passed away this past year. Yeah. It was a really hard thing for me to grasp because it was like I will never. Comic books and comic art has been a huge thing in my life, so I had to grasp it. Like I will never get to meet this person. There's as much Tim Sale in the art Tim Sale artwork in the world as there ever will be. There'll never be more Tim Sale art. And so this book I have so much attached to.
Yeah.
It's just it exists perfectly for me. You know, it's one of those things I'll always go back and reread. My kids are going to read it, you know, because for me it's essential reading. You know,
it is.
I actually think there's a lot of I've taken writing classes and so if you were to teach this in a curriculum, you know what I mean? I think you get a lot out of it.
Absolutely.
As comic books, not as a superhero medium, but as like an actual literary, like,
right.
It stands on its own. It's like just a great story.
Which I think is why it's reached that level. I mean, it's the most popular Batman comic. Like, you know, you talk about how many different Batman actors and directors, and they always talk about reading this. I remember reading that Christian Bale had a copy in his trailer or whatnot and would read it, you know, this in like year one. And I mean, it is, you know, essential Batman.
Yeah.
You know, I said this about Hush. If I wanted to give someone someone asked me, hey, give me a comment that really, for someone who knows nothing about Batman, what should be the best comic? What would be the best comic to start with to learn about the whole world? I give them Hush, and this would be right there.
Yeah.
You know,
absolutely.
I mean, the only reason I give Hush first is because it has Bat Family, all the other stuff. But for starting, I'd go, shit, if you don't want to hear year one, if you don't want to read year one, start here.
Yeah. I still want to. One of my goals is to own a page from that. From that story. I just want some piece of that.
Yeah.
You know, because it was such a big part of my life. You know, I still want something from it.
I started collecting the original issues. I went down to Sargent's a few weeks ago. I bought like a few of them, and I'm just, I just want to have all 13 in plastic and
I get that.
original printing.
Yeah.
I probably have more of that comic than anything else. Yeah. I got this version, the absolute version. I'm about to have the regular. I got the movies. Wow. But it is, phenomenal. Love it. So, I'm sticking up.
I got to go through my, you guys making me want to go through my box of comics.
Yeah.
I had my son's inventory like twice. I think I got probably 700 comics that I don't even remember what they were now. So you're pulling on some strings, man.
You got to break them out the vault, dude.
Right?
You have to.
Yep, absolutely. Adrian, was this better than Black Adam?
I would say yes.
Okay.
Because the power of a comic, of a graphic novel, is that you get to sit there and marinate on the colors and the art styles and the shadows. Movies is just flash, in front of you, and it moves on to be like, oh, I like that, but why do I like that? Yeah. They did a better job in Into the Spider-Verse with the moving background, things like that.
Yeah.
So, but with a graphic novel, you get to sit there and it's textile.
Right.
And you feel it, you see it. You can just sit there and look at this one image for as long as you want to, kind of soak it in, and then go on. So that's why it's better than Black Adam. Outside of that, I don't know.
What if we could get Tom Cruise to play Batman?
In the
long
he's too
Halloween.
short. You can't be a short king and play Batman.
Nah.
Nope, that one I'm not. You can have a tall Wolverine. You can't have a short Batman. Is that fair? We all agree on that?
Yes.
Sorry, what are you gonna do? But well, there you have it. There's the deep dive into the Batman, into the Long Halloween. 9.8. Adrian said 8.5. 8.5. 9.5 from Chris.
9.5.
Chris, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you
for
for
this
having
segment.
me. Always.
What's going on with the first night, bro? Next issue anytime soon?
Keep an eye on chrisboyleart.com because very soon it's going to be available through that, and I'm working on the next part of that as we speak. So
awesome.
A lot of cool stuff is coming along the pipeline. So
well, check out the first night actually I'm jumping the gun. The first one's not even available for like everyone to purchase yet. I'm an insider.
yeah. It's almost publicly available.
Got it. So I'm telling y'all, I'm asking about the second one. They haven't even read the first one. Well, you want to read the first one?
If the first was available through a Kickstarter campaign, but it will be available through my website very soon.
Perfect. Well, as soon as it is, you'll let us know. We'll let everybody know here. It's a great start. I'm interested and can't wait to hear what comes next. Great art. So we're talking about art styles. Love it. Yeah. Story's great. Did you check it out yet, Adrian?
Chris Boyle Art.
I have not checked it out yet. I've been otherwise distracted.
Yes. Absolutely.
Chris Boyle Art on Instagram.
All right, and now we're gonna wrap up the show, Adrian. So we had it. We normally wrap up with our deep dive. So we had a great long Halloween deep dive. That was fun. But now we're gonna get into Loki episode 4 of season 2. We're not going to do a deep dive for sake of time, but I didn't want to go a week and not talk about this episode because of how this is why my first opinion to you was season 2 will change the MCU as we know it. You know, and thinking back to Loki season 1, that had an ongoing effect in the MCU.
Right.
They kill He Who Remains. Now the multiverse is a thing, and then sure as shit, next movie is Multiverse of Madness, right? And then you see the No Way Home. So now we got multiverse stuff everywhere. Kang shows up in Quantumania, which I am going to rewatch, dude. I'm going to have to because I think I gave it unnecessary shit because of how bad the CGI is.
Right.
It is not a great movie. I know that. But for Kang's performance, I do want to watch it again because Jonathan Majors has been a highlight of this Loki. I mean, one of the highlights.
Yes.
Not to discredit anyone else because I think the acting in it's phenomenal.
Right.
And actually, I screwed up with Newsflash, buddy, because there was a segment article I didn't save, but I'll just fill you in right now. So, Martin Scorsese has thrown some shade at comic movies in the past.
Yes.
He says they're not cinema. Okay. They're not cinema. Right. It's just like you could just see, like, you know, you just rubbing, you know, puffing your nose up.
Right.
Cinema. Anyways, so I don't agree, obviously. But the directors of Loki came out and said recently that basically, and I don't have it up, so I'm going to misquote him, but basically said, like, watch Loki and tell me that that's not cinema. Like, it is. Now, do you agree that Loki is so far, 4 episodes in, as far as it looks, feels, is cinema?
Loki is engaging. It is entertaining. It's thought-provoking. And that's cinema enough for me.
Absolutely. I agree.
You know, the format, because I think Scorsese is looking more at format than he is anything else. If for me, when a motion picture meets checks those 3 boxes, then I'm good, dude. I mean, I'm good.
Yeah, I agree. We could have had, you know, Martin be our buster this week too.
Right.
I mean, he's an honorary mention. But anyway, so I'm loving this season as it goes along. I can't remember what I gave last episode, but each episode I think is getting a little bit better. My score for this episode would be an 8. About you?
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good solid 8.
Yeah, I thought it was great from start to finish, to be honest.
It was short though.
It was short.
It just stopped.
Yeah.
Which was interesting.
Yep, I think that's what we'll probably spend most of our time talking about, that ending. But, I mean, the episode, I thought it was great. You know, the big reveal for Renslayer was that she knew about creating or she helped fight the multiversal war with Kang, or He Who Remains.
Yep.
And then at the last minute, when everything was done, you know, he said, we've been doing this a long time. He sends her back to the TVA. He's still at the end of time. And he tells the Miss Minutes to wipe everybody's memory. So we've now confirmed that He Who Remains wiped everybody's memory after the multiversal war that he started.
Right.
Kind of used them.
Yeah.
Kang's turning out to be pretty up there for, or Kang, He Who Remains, whatever you want to call him for, you know, as far as a Marvel top-tier villain. So we learned that. And then we still got this issue with this temporal loom. Basically, there's like this timeline outside the window, right? And they said this is where like raw time becomes physical time. Like it's all about thought provoking,
right?
It's almost like you know people joke about we live in a simulation, the Matrix. It's kind of like what they're saying here in a way. Like somewhere out there, it's almost like a power supply for the universe, right? And something screwed up with it because of these timelines that are branching. They're being destroyed, and they're basically saying that's going to then destroy all the timelines, right? And they needed He Who Remains or his DNA to open the blast doors because he's the one that created everything to go put some shit outside to fix everything. That's my version of it.
Right.
You know, because for sake of time. I like Jonathan Majors' acting. I love him when he first shows up to the TVA, how, like, impressed he is.
Right.
And this whole paradox of it's his work, but it isn't.
Right. Yep.
Like
with Obi.
Yo, when he meets Obi, is that not just like one of the best scenes in the show?
Yeah, that was cool. It's like, what's her name? Sylvia.
Sylvie. Yep.
Sylvie. She was like, "Can we stop the bromance? Yeah, we got some work to do here." You know, so that was cool.
Yeah, but you understand it though, because it's like technically they've been working with each other but not really.
Right.
You know, because of the whole time thing on the sacred timeline. Like, Obi's reading the TVA manual that He Who Remains created, which is a variant of Victor Timely. Victor Timely's using the manual. Like, it's so it's cool. And then basically, to put it, you know, long story short, they're having some issues figuring out how they're going to fix it. And then Victor Timely kind of figures it out for him. Hey, do this. I got this. And he had this little thing in his hand. And this is also why I want to watch Ant-Man Quantumanium again. Because he has this small little prototype, right? And it opens up and these wheels are spinning.
Right.
And that, you see that in Ant-Man Quantumanium. But it looks huge. Hangs in this chair. There's all these rings and stuff around him. Those little, it looks a lot like that little device he has. Now, it looks big, but when you think about it, they're in the quantum realm, so it's actually really small, right?
Right.
But I'm wondering, there's going to be a lot more to that, whatever that little device is.
Sure.
I've made a prediction a long time ago on here about this phase of multiverse and how these artifacts, these items are going to play a major piece in it, something like the Infinity Stones did for the Infinity Saga. You got the bangle from Captain Marvel or Ms. Marvel. You got the 10 rings from Shang-Chi. You got, this stuff with Kang, He Who Remains. There's all kinds of little, we saw a blade sword at the end of one of the movies. Who the hell knows what all they're going to So there's some connection there. But anyways, they basically decide that that's what they need to do, right? They know how to fix it. Now, I liked Sylvie in the first season, but I think I like her even more now. How do you feel about the Sylvie character?
She's pretty badass.
Yeah.
She's like the protagonist or antagonist.
Yeah.
And she's the Amanda Waller.
Yes.
She's the British chick.
She's cutthroat, bro.
Yeah, she is. She's raw. So I'm feeling it.
Yeah. She's just like a very angry version of Loki, right? Like, she is a Loki variant, but much more angry. She's been outed. She's an orphan, the whole deal.
It's bad when Loki has to talk sense into virtually himself.
Right.
So that was like a weird, I was like, damn, is Loki like parenting here?
Yeah, kind of.
It was funny.
I think my favorite, and why I even said that about Sylvie, was the scene where she basically goes in on Mobius. Because they decide what's going to happen.
Coco?
Yeah, he's going off to get Coco, and then he wants to get Pi. Like they're getting ready. They're getting ready. Like Obi and what's his name are getting ready to fix this temporal loom, and all this universe is in balance. And he's like, let's go get some Pi. And she just goes in on him. Like, dude, you found out you're a variant. You didn't even look to see. Like, so let's use hypotheticals, Adrian. Me and you are in the TVA, right? And we find this out. You find out that I've been plucked from the timeline. Would you want to go see what life you left, or would you?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I would.
Absolutely.
Like, I kind of feel my boy Brad, dude. What's his name? X5 or whatever his name is. Like, dude, he went out on the timeline and became a movie star. Like, dude, I'm like, because what if you check the life that you had and you're like, wow, that kind of sucked, man. I was like homeless, living by myself or whatever. Like, shit, maybe I'll just end up somewhere else and be a movie star.
There you go.
You really can't knock Brad.
Nah.
And then we see that Renslayer and Ms. Minutes are working together.
Yeah.
Dude, what do you think about Ms. Minutes?
Dude, that was the most.
She's a savage.
She's a savage, man. When they were crushing everybody in that box, you see her, dude.
Yeah,
she was over there like, oh my god. She was like, just I don't know. It was sick. It was sick. But I like the fact that they portrayed that so well in an inanimate object.
Yeah.
Her eyes, the way she was trembling. The whole thing. She was getting off on that.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. Yeah, she was hyped about them people. And even Brad was like having a hard time looking at it, right? You talk about, and I like stuff like that where how brutal that is. Obviously, it's a equivalent of a PG-13 movie, so they're not going to show it because it is geared towards kids. But it's one of the things we were talking about when we did our Batman deep dive, like when he bashes the guy's face and they just kind of blur the camera.
Right.
You know what's happening.
Right.
But you're not going to see every gory detail because it's not an R-rated movie.
Right. Like who was it? X5. She came in.
Yeah.
And you can tell. By what you have heard when it was happening and looking at her face that this was, I almost thought that it was going to be nothing. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Because the box closes until infinity, right?
Right.
And then goes away.
I guess. Yeah.
What did it do? Close and then open back up and let all the gory stuff come out?
As it closed, well, you could still see through it.
Right.
So as it's closing, you're actually seeing their bodies being crushed.
Right.
So yeah.
So does it stop, because you can create the box and get rid of the box? So what did it do? Create the box, let it shrink, and then just left it there?
Probably.
Wow.
Yeah. Which is why they had that look on her face.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what's a B-15? She I like her character too. Dude.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they've handled the characters. This show's very well written.
Right.
Which is shocking for Marvel currently. I mean, let's be honest, bro. Like, Secret Invasion, Loki. Come on.
I think they thought that with Secret Invasion, with the talent pool that they had in it, that those actors would carry the movie,
right?
And they were just so wrong about that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in this one, a lot of these actors, they're not well known. They didn't bring no Game of Thrones people. I mean, Loki's been Loki. I mean, Tom Hiddleston's been Loki forever. Right. Sylvie, I've never seen her before.
Nope.
The guy who plays Obi, I feel like I've seen him somewhere, but he's not that big of a character. Nope. Jonathan Majors wasn't a huge star until really after this. Nope. I mean,
the only two people that I've recognized in that movie was Mobius and Loki. Yeah. That was it. Everybody else to me is new.
And I think Owen Wilson kills it as like for him, because I've always loved like Wedding Crashers. I love you know, so I've always been a big fan of his comedy. I love seeing him get this shine, and almost like Paul Rudd. As much as I Ant-Man, like it's a joke, but I love that Paul Rudd plays him, and he kills it.
Yeah. Have you seen Owen Wilson in that movie where he was with Mock? They were like Navy pilots and they get shot down over Russia. You got to watch that movie. Yeah? It's a good movie.
It's good?
Yeah.
It's like serious role?
Yeah, serious. It's like Maverick kind of.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
Yeah. But yeah, I think Owen plays a great Mobius. So, you know, we see Renslayer and Miss Minutes working together. And then Miss Minutes basically breaks into the system.
Right.
As they're trying to set up this whole fix, you know, this fix-it job. And they're locked out of their temp pads.
Right.
And then Obi says basically that the only way to fix this is to restart the system. Right. Now, we also see a callback to an earlier episode. Remember when Loki is time slipping?
Yes.
And he goes into the future and he sees the scene. And we didn't know who pruned that version of Loki.
Right.
And now we learn that it was the other Loki who pruned him.
Yep.
So we go back, and if you remember, the phone was ringing.
Yep.
Which is funny because they set it up like it was so creepy, and it's just Obi like, "Hey, where are you guys?"
Yeah. I had a little Matrix flashback there with the phone ringing and stuff. Yep. That was pretty cool.
So that was cool. So I like that kind of callback. And then they say that if we restart the system, it's going to turn off some type of buffer thing to where people would be able to use magic. Because if you notice, Loki cannot use his powers at the TVA.
Right.
And they're like afraid to do that, but Loki and Sylvia are like, do it. I thought that was cool. And then we got to see Loki be Loki. Because if I had any critique about this show, and and it's really not a critique, but if it's missing something that I'd like to see, it would be more of Loki being Loki. I know he's, this is a transition for him. It's a new, but we've not get to see him use his powers that much, except for when they caught Brad in the early episode. Right. So,
well, actually, I kind of like the momentum that they have, because if he was always doing Loki stuff, then it'll get old.
Yeah.
It'll get old. And, he has to, I think at the end of this, he will grow, he will mature, because of the roles and responsibilities that he currently has.
Yeah.
And if he kept, doing Loki stuff, he wouldn't do it. He would just set aside the grown-up part and just do all the Loki shit. So
yeah, no, I agree.
think it's good to see.
I think it fits the story. But for me, it's like I just like to see it on screen, and we got to see a little bit of it, and I like it in doses. I think that's fine. And then they outsmart Renslayer. They basically put some type of spell on Brad. She distracts Renslayer. They get Victor Timely back, and now then they reset the system. I thought this was funny too, because if you notice, Victor Timely talks with a little bit of a stutter.
Yep.
Right, and then when Miss Minutes was rebooting, she started stuttering.
Yep.
And he was like, "Mocking is just not necessary." So it was just funny. Again,
wait a minute, didn't Renslayer get pruned?
She did
by Loki dressed up with the skin of the guy
Brad,
right?
Yeah, or Loki controlling Brad.
Right. So
yep, she did get pruned, and the first season, when they get pruned, they go to this this void almost. So you don't actually die. You go to some void, which we've not seen yet in this show. I don't know if we're going to see that in episode 5 or 6. Who knows? But so anyways, I think we're getting to the part where basically Victor Timely's decide. They kind of have this little disagreement of who should go fix the temporal loom, and then Victor says he should. Right. He gets all suited up. They have the plan layered out. You're going to go out there. You're going to put this piece out there. You're going to hit the green button. This thing is going to connect to the temporal loom. It's going to fix the timeline, and everything's going to be gravy train from here on out, right? And we saw, and they keep talking about the radiation, because Mobius went out and did something similar in one of the first episodes, right? When that was when Loki had to get pruned and come back. So they open the door. Dude, my man walks out, and dude, all of a sudden it's SpaghettiOs.
Right.
I was not expecting that.
I was not expecting that, but it was cool.
It was
to see.
Yeah.
It was cool how they made that happen.
Yeah. Dude, and it was just like, I don't know about you, but I was watching on my laptop, and my jaw dropped. It's like, holy shit, like they actually, where'd he go?
Right.
It reminded me a little bit of in Infinity War when Thanos is collecting the stones, and the Guardians, and they're kind of like trying to attack him, and he just does like a little move, and all of a sudden they turn into like confetti and shit like that.
Yeah.
You know, but then was it me, or it kind of turned into spaghetti first, and then he almost turned to dust, like when Thanos snapped. It kind of looked like he just dissipated.
It looked painful.
Yeah.
Because you could actually see him unraveling.
Yeah.
It wasn't something like instantaneous.
Right.
But it was fast enough. It was slow enough to where you wouldn't, I mean, it was fast enough that you wouldn't get bored with it.
Right.
But it was slow enough that you can actually see like his eyes and shit separating into like spaghetti. So it was an interesting effect to see.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool.
But I thought it looked like he basically went to dust after that. And then a few seconds later, we see the temporal loom. Shit explodes. Big old light blast. It leads right up towards Loki, Mobius, and all them.
Yep.
So, I mean, what happened in your mind?
There's too much that could have happened. And I like cliffhangers like that.
Yeah.
It kind of pisses me off, but at the same time, it's kind of exciting. Because everything that led up to that moment was interesting enough.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To carry the show. So I don't have to wonder about what happened. I mean, because you can sit around and just conjecture all you want to.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that you're going to be right or anywhere near right.
Right.
So I'm good with just finding out on the next show.
Yeah. I mean, because there's, like you said, it's endless. There's so many possibilities. It could, maybe we could be getting ahead of ourselves and it didn't have that much of an impact, or maybe it resets everything. Who the hell knows? Yep. And at the end of the show, are they going to reset it back? But that's why I said, even in, in the agree to disagree, I do think that whatever happens, I think with these next 2 episodes, it's going to change the MCU as we know it moving forward.
It would have to, because even if you go with just the explosion, right, and it wipes out everything, the assumption is that there's going to be a reset,
right?
Literally, and because you're dealing with every timeline, every universe, you reset all it. Besides, they wiped out a lot of timelines, right? You could literally do anything with this. So I wouldn't be surprised if anything came up. Maybe what's his face that come from DC over into Marvel or something as Sentry or something. I don't know.
Tom Cruise is going to show up.
Nick Cage.
Nick Cage. Superman's going to come out. I don't know. But I mean, that's another thing. We're all thinking it's going to destroy everything. It could cause more timelines.
Right.
It could be a complete mess. Maybe it's a freaking multiverse mess after this, and there's timelines intercepting with all each other. Because, I mean, we've never seen anything like this, so we don't know for a fact it's going to destroy everything.
Right.
It could just mess everything up, 6 ways from Sunday.
You're right.
So who knows? But I agree. I love cliffhangers. I love so far this season. I mean, we're 4 episodes in. It's so opposite of how I was feeling 4 episodes into Secret Invasion.
Oh my God.
Not to keep beating the dead horse, but shit. fuck it, keep beating the dead horse. But I'm looking forward to these next 2 episodes, and I do think that coming out of this that we're going to see a major impact. And I honestly hope, because outside of the Marvels, and you could always say this takes place, Marvels could take place before this. That's how, continuity works with they've released plenty of things, that took place before something that was released, that's movies, and I'm cool with that. And outside of that, there's really nothing that's been announced that we have a lot of background on. Like Deadpool 3 is coming out. That's going to be somewhat of a multiverse movie. Right. Maybe what happens here in Loki 2 impacts whatever we're going to see in Deadpool 3, because somehow Deadpool's in the multiverse.
Right.
But to your point, there could be so many different outcomes of this. But I like it. I'm with it. I wish more of this stuff ended like this with cliffhangers. And the good news is we got a few days to find out what's next.
Right. I just hope they don't, in their reboot or whatever this multiverse thing does, it doesn't mean a whole new round of origins.
Yeah. For the same characters.
Please.
Right.
Keep that shit to yourself.
Absolutely. And I hope, Adrian, for your sake, that they do not in this reboot cast Tom Cruise as Iron Man. I really hope that doesn't happen.
I hope so as well.
Because I know you're a huge that would be like them casting Tom Cruise for Batman for me.
Right.
I would. What reaction I would have? The same reaction I had when I ate that candy corn in line. Yes, that's it. So,
and don't get me wrong, love Tom Cruise movies.
Absolutely,
love him as an actor. Reacher, the
Rain
Top
Man,
Gun.
Go back to old
everything.
school.
Pretty much everything.
Yep.
Right? But he's not a superhero. The closest he is to a superhero is
Mission Impossible.
Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
Leave it at that.
Yeah, let him have that, dude. We don't need Jason Statham coming over. Like,
right.
Let's just chill, dude. Yep, same thing. Kind of same deal with that.
Exactly.
Just leave him over there.
He probably good in the Expendables.
Yeah. Put Tom Cruise there.
Yeah, there you go. They coming
Absolutely.
out. It's getting ridiculous
Nick
now.
Cage there?
It's getting ridiculous now.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, next week we will review. We'll do a longer deep dive because we won't have the long Halloween to talk about. But we hope you guys enjoyed the show. If you didn't, let us know. If you did, let us know. But it's been fun. It was a good week, Adrian. You know what? What I'm thinking is, since I got this book here, this Marvel Cinematic Universe, right? Mm-hmm. You got Hidden Gem segment. We got Agree to Disagree. I'm thinking I'm going to start reading this, and once a week I'm going to pull out a fun fact for you.
Okay.
A fun fact about the timeline, and then we'll discuss it briefly.
Okay.
It'll be another new segment here. There you have it. Another week in the books. Adrian, thanks for joining.
No problem.
Guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for downloading. Hit the subscribe button. Let us know if you like us, if you don't, if you think I'm whack, if you agree. Either way, really don't care. We're going to keep doing this, right? We're having fun.
That's right.
This is Only Comics, where we discuss comics and only comics and sometimes some other stuff. Sometimes. So
candy corn.
And some candy corn, absolutely, which we both agreed upon. This is a record who 10 for 10 agree.
Right.
And one of the things that you heard it here first, we both agree. Candy corn should be discontinued. I should name this episode that. But we'll see you next week on Only Comics.